Ken, thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview today. Maybe if you could just start by just mentioning your date of birth and the fact that it doesn't agree with your military records, and then your time in school cadets and the militia, and come straight to the point where you enlisted.
Okie dokes. Yes, well, my first experience with anything to do with the military was at Scots College. I joined the cadet corps and we finished up going down to Portsea and doing a camp down there. I enjoyed that, and then later on when the war started in 1939 I went into the militia, and then later on when Paris and France gave up the ghost, so it's about time I hopped in, and myself and a cousin, we both joined up and went in as brothers, and to do keep together we had to belong to the same family. And when we were going through the interview, he happened to have 8 sisters and some brothers, and of course I only had my brother, and anyway there was a slight mix up and I was one out, and I said, oh, I forgot myself. Got through, and to get in I went in as a 21-year-old, and in fact I was only 20. Well, after going to Royal Park and being taken care of with all our gear, I heard that Bonnie Muir, who was in charge of PT, was looking for somebody with experience, and having been in the militia, I said to Bruce, who incidentally wanted to be a pilot, but I said, listen, my uncle was in the First World War, he said, get in the artillery, he said, it's crazy, he said, don't let them put you anywhere else. So anyway, that comes into it later, but we started teaching PT, and we went down to Colac, in charge of the Colac recruits, and there was about 400 or 500, and we're going through the exercises of what do this and do that. And then we were sent up to Bongilla to the 2nd 23rd Albury Zone, and by this stage of the game I'd gone from 2 stripes to 3 stripes. We both had 3 stripes, and we had a troop each. Pardon me, not a troop, a platoon. And then the departure date arrived, and they said, well, what are you doing? And I said, no, I'm going to the artillery. So we were then pushed back into Albury Showgrounds, and the 2nd 23rd Albury Zone went away without us. And it was while we were in the showgrounds that McEachran, who was starting up the 4th Anti-Tank, interviewed myself, Bruce, and a few other sergeants that were there, and there was 4 or 5 of us went down to Puckapunyal as members of the 4th Anti-Tank. And he said to all of us that there was 3 positions vacant, whereby commissions were available if we proved that we could handle it. And so we went to school, and I finished up with a commission. My cousin, he got the mumps, missed going away with us, got out of the army, joined the Air Force, and he was written up in Pierre Klosterman's book of returning from the landings on D-Day with his plane more like a sieve than a plane. So Bruce got back, but anyway, getting back to myself, I was in charge of Freddie Troop in 14 Battery, and when I got my commission I went to 15 Battery and in charge of George Troop. That's Freddie Troop in 14. In 15 Battery I had George Troop.
So how did you move to Singapore?
I went in New Zealandia.
About what date?
About in May. Around
May
22nd of
May 41.
May
Yeah.
41, yeah.
And what was your feeling when you went to Singapore? Did you feel that you were going
we
to...
We didn't know where we were going
No.
for a start, but we were told when we left Fremantle, really.
Mm. But what I'm getting at is when say you arrived in Malaya, did you feel that you were going to be involved in a war at that stage?
At that stage we knew that there was something that somebody knew to even sending us there. And so we were told later on that Japan was a bit dicey, and the powers to be thought that something could be happening. And sure enough, they were right.
Yes.
But we were there for quite some time before the war broke out.
So whilst you're in Malaya, did Colonel McEachran, was there intensive training for your unit?
Yeah.
Was it good
Yeah,
and effective?
I was out with from Tampin with route marches through the jungle and all that type of thing, and finishing up going by compass and so on, getting back to a place where there was food available.
Yes. Were you able to compare the training by the Australians compared with... Did you actually see any British in training?
Well, no, they were all back in Singapore.
Yeah.
But we were flat out trying to train at all. We didn't have any air guns.
So what were you using at the time?
Oh, well, marks on the ground, and we got 75s. A great big, well, it was a big French gun that had been used way back, and we were supposed to make that into anti-tank gun. And our gut busters as far as compared to the gun that we should have had.
Yes. So Japan came into the war on the 7th of December out in Pearl Harbor, and the 8th of December in the area
That's
where
right.
you were.
I happened to be down in Singapore at the time, and there was a code name Raffles. They must have known something was on. Because they had told the Americans, from what I can gather later on, that there was a force coming down from Japan that was heading down our way. And they did let the Americans know, but they didn't take any notice, because they were caught with their pants well and truly down. But this code word Raffles was played onto I was at the pictures watching some show, and that meant we had to get back to camp and get back in a hurry.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I'd driven my Top George down, and going back to Mersing, on the way back a native started waving and wanted me to pull up. And I said, "Not on your nanny," and I aimed at him, and I just gave him a slight helping hand with the rear mudguard, and back to camp, because there was a lot of 5th column going on. If I'd pulled up, I wouldn't be sitting here now talking to you, that's for sure.
Yes.
Because you'd have others. It did happen, that people were caught that way.
Where did you personally have contact in battle with the Japanese?
Oh, the closest I got was before I left Mersing, and they were on the other side of the river. And we left there, we pulled out. We sighted our guns there onto the river, and then we had to move. And we got onto the road going south, and I had one night where we were there, and then we had to move the next day, and then sight them again at that stage of the game. Unfortunately, got dengue, so I didn't know what the hell it was at the time. And I remember lining the blokes up and saying, "Now this thing could be on tonight." And now I said, if I get knocked, well, I mean, everybody knows what to do. And I remember this Sergeant Gunner Knight, he said, "Oh, don't say that, sir." And he wouldn't read about it, he was the only one that was killed.
Yes. And
Crazy.
Did you, having dengue, did you have contact with your doctor, Horitaka?
No.
Right.
No, I was down to the clearing station, and then into the hospital at on Singapore Island.
Now, was that a general hospital?
Yeah, well, it was the 13th AGH, I think. It was
13th AGH, yes.
They were out towards Changi.
Yes. And
I was just in bed there, but you know, crazy.
Were there still nurses? Still nurses there?
Oh yeah, nurses there.
Yeah. Do you remember the names of any of them?
Oh, not that stage. No.
Do you remember the names?
Well, I remember. Yeah, well, prior to that happening, we went down to Malacca and I went to a dinner there, invited down by the matron and the nurse down about all these nurses there, and there was only about 4 blokes. And being a virgin, I didn't know whether I'd Arthur or Martha. Crazy.
Do you remember any of them by name? Do you remember any of them by name?
Yeah, well, the one that I went out with, and she was killed with Viv Bullwinkle.
Yeah, was shot.
And got out of it.
Who was that?
And stand by for a second.
Yep.
Yeah, Nell Keats.
And
she was killed with at the time that
yes.
Viv Bullwinkle got away and got out of it with a bit of luck.
Yeah. So once you recovered from the dengue, did you return to your men?
After being over a week there in the hospital, we then moved to a rehab place there
convalescent depot.
Where we could finally get right to go back to the unit.
Do you remember any of the doctors in that depot?
No, it was only
Colonel Webster.
No. But all I know is that we're in a room up top.
Yeah.
And suddenly, about the 13th, a couple of days before the finish, and the Japs arrived. So I became a POW before the actual capitulation.
Yes, yeah.
And they said there was a Jap coming up, and we were upstairs. And there was a corner room, there's 2 entrances to the room, and I was in a bed near the side, and anyway the Jap came in another one when I was taken off for watch and hiding it under a sheet. And he came in, I looked round, and he's looking at me, and he just came round and looked round and put his hand down, pulled out the watch, looked at it like that, dropped it like that, shoved his heel on it, the next minute he backhanded me. And I finished up putting my hand down to stop myself from hitting the floor, but that's all I got. And how lucky was I when I hear about later on that they went in and bayoneted the whole damn lot in town.
Yes.
In Singapore.
Just one other question before we leave that condiff. There was a Captain Clive Boyce. That name doesn't ring a bell?
No.
He was a doctor? Okay.
No, well, any doctors, it was only initially when the doctor saw me there and they said, "Oh, it's dengue." And from then on, it was the girls' nurses took over what I can remember of it.
Yes. So we'll move on now. You've become a prisoner of war, and I guess that you...
well, I moved from there to...
Celerine, was it?
No, I went to the... Celerine Barracks,
Yes. Yeah. And then, only months after you became a POW, you were selected for A-Force.
A-Force. So and that was also in... we left in May. May seemed to be... We left in May from Australia to get over there, and it was in in May that we left to go north in A-Force.
Yes.
And we went away as a fighting unit.
Yes.
With Brigadier Varley in charge.
Yes.
Well, I had Johnny Vance, myself, and Captain McCabe, he was with us. But the ones that stayed with me at all time was Johnny Vance. Johnny Vance and I were together.
Yes.
In other spots.
So when you took off, which of the two vessels were you on? Were you on the Mayabushi
Toyohashi,
or the Toyohashi Maru?
Maru.
And you remember calling in at Madang over in Sumatra?
Madang, pick up the Dutch.
Yes.
And also I remember before we left I grabbed some tins of onions. I said to the blokes there, grab these and take them up. And we did, and unfortunately we got them and they all got that much, or that damn loose. Unreal.
Yes, yeah.
Bad news, that one, but
yeah.
Still, a good try.
Seemed like a good idea at the time. So from Madan you went back to the Malayan coast and the vessels...
Some Victoria Point, and we went up to, and there was Murgui.
Yes. And
then we pulled off this river out from Tavoy, and we climbed down ramps on the side of the ship into barges and went up the river, and there was this big go down there that was full of rice, seed rice, and it all had all the manure and stuff mixed with it, ready for planting, and full of weevils. I was went to sleep on the damn thing, or whatever sleep we get, you could hear the damn weevils clicking all night.
Yes.
Nothing to eat. We had nothing to eat there.
No. Did you get off the first day that you were in Tavoy?
Yeah. And then there was this steamroller came off, and I said the boat pull a bit hard on one, and the other damn thing tipped over the side.
Yes.
Tipped, and the barge just went, and the steamroller went in the water. That was the end of that.
Were there any repercussions on the POW site?
No, they thought, oh, that's bad luck.
And it was never recovered,
They didn't worry. Well, I wouldn't know what happened to it.
No.
There was no use anyway.
Yeah. So this put you in Tavoy in May 42. How did you...
We had some food at Tavoy.
Yes.
And then in the dark went out and we arrived at this F hangar that had been put up by the British. And the whole lot of us went into it, and it had the boulders on it ready for pouring concrete, and they were about 6 inches in diameter, with hellish and sharp edges. And we were told, well, that was that. That was where we were in the ship, and the officers were pulled out, including myself. We pulled out the Japs one, and they lined us up, and the interpreter said that anybody that goes past that electric tree, and that electric tree was a couple of boats out, they would be shot. And if anybody escaped, the death sentence, there's no argument about it, and that all the natives had been told that they would give them 2 years' money from